Up for internet banking,
Too
so you could see
easy.
your balance anywhere,
Anytime.
and you download it from your Google Play Store and just But I'm telling you, so many ways that credit union could allow you to see your balance. They got you, I tell you.
But you got me thinking now, like I wondering if you should just go up there right now and open my account, buy the shares, and then in the end I got something to leave for my son.
There we go now. I'm gonna come with you. Once you got your 2 photo IDs, I sure you don't got that, right?
Yeah.
And you could find a bill with your address on it.
Too easy.
That's all you need, and the money to buy your shares, and a little something to go on your account, and you're good to go.
But a question again, Ewell. They just do loan?
Boy, I tell you, let we go. The man does the loan for everything. Music, festival, ticket and all.
Music.
You hear what I'm telling you? They got loan for everything. But watch now, on a serious note, right? You remember that small business me and you was talking about the other day?
Yeah.
Well, they just start this business loan, right? Just to help those who want to start a business or already have a business who needs a little capital. And you think they done there? They got line of credit, instant credit loan, car loan, mortgage loan, and one other thing. But anyway, I can't remember that. But the mortgage loan, I know you're gonna like that because I know you want a house for your growing family.
Yeah.
And you know what the best part about it is?
Tell me.
They're gonna guide you so that you get what you need to be financially comfortable.
Ewell, you sure?
I'm telling you.
But Ewell, what make you here still, Ewell?
I tell you, let me go long time.
Makes sense.
Let me
Let's
go.
open this
And
account now.
wait.
Wow.
The best part is the customer service.
Stop playing.
Let me go.
Credit unions are cooperatives, which means they are owned by their members. Cooperatives, whether they be financial institutions, electrical cooperatives, or food co-ops, all share the same 7 principles. Principle number 1, voluntary and open membership. You can belong to a credit union no matter your financial situation, race, or gender without discrimination. Principle number 2, democratic member control. This means we are controlled by our members. The members elect a volunteer board of directors that calls the shots. So we're not in this to get rich, but help you reach financial freedom. Principle number 3, member economic participation. Your success is our success. The more people who participate, the more the credit union can give back in the form of lower loan rates, higher savings yields, fewer fees, and more products. Just like karma, what goes around comes right back around. Principle number 4, autonomy and independence. We are owned by our members, not outside shareholders. That makes each member the boss. Principle number 5, education, training, and information. We are actively involved in helping members get ahead and financial education. Got a few minutes? We'll teach you the merits of budgeting, planning for retirement, or even how to balance your account. Principle number 6, cooperation among cooperatives. We network together to provide more ATMs than the world's largest bank. We also share 4,000 branches across the country that most any credit union member can access. Principle number 7, concern for the community. Credit union folks everywhere participate in volunteering for all sorts of local charities. It's just part of our DNA. When you join a credit union, you don't just join a cooperative, you join a movement rooted in the 7 cooperative principles. This video has been brought to you by your local credit union through the National Credit Union Foundation and Corporate One.
SKCCU has a
Pleasant good afternoon, members and friends. Welcome to the 37th Annual General Meeting for the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. This meeting is now called to order.
I am so happy to be with you at the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union at your annual general meeting. I am Pastor Lyndon Elliott, and I'm pastor for the Seventh-day Adventist churches in District Number 2, St. Kitts, comprising of Keon, Molyneux, and Los Tres Angeles, which is, in English, Three Angels. That's the Spanish church. I am also familiar with the Cooperative Credit Union's philosophy. I was actually chairman for the credit committee in the Seventh-day Adventist Cooperative Credit Union in Antigua and Barbuda, and I sat on the Credit Union League in Antigua. So I'm quite familiar with the functioning of the credit union here in St. Kitts and throughout the Caribbean Union. So I'm delighted to be with you in this meeting, and I also want to invite you at this moment to pray with me as we seek the blessings of God upon this meeting. Loving God and Father in heaven, we just want to thank you for your greatness, for your love, and for your goodness. When we look at how good you are to us and how we've been lackadaisical in our response to your love, oh God, we are just ashamed of ourselves. But this afternoon, this moment, we want to thank you for your great love. We want to demonstrate in this meeting on this Zoom platform that you are indeed a wonderful God, a marvelous God. You're awesome in all your ways. And I just want to thank you for all of us. We indeed have come this far by faith. And this credit union, all the banking sectors throughout the world would have been faced with a financial crisis during this COVID-19. And their theme is facing the financial fears in the future. And so, loving Father, we just want to thank you for the credit union and the history of the credit union in terms of its founding father. In 1901, the first deposit was only 10 cents. And credit union has come far, even in this 21st century. And we thank you for the founding fathers like St. Francis and so on, who saw the need. And we pray that the St. Kitts Credit Union would indeed be an institution to be reckoned with. Help them, O loving Father, that they would conduct their business in the principles and in the spirit of the credit union. That is to help each member so that they can foster cohesiveness and togetherness, and in the process help members to achieve their financial goal in terms of stability and economic power. We pray your blessing upon the directors, the managers, each member, everyone that is involved in this credit union. And throughout this process, as they lay before the members what is the financial status, I pray a blessing upon this credit union, that it would grow in leaps and bounds, and that they would always remember the founding principles of the credit union. The credit union is not like the commercial bank. The policies governing the credit union. So, loving Father, help all that is involved, that they would do their job in the spirit of the cooperative credit union. We want to thank you, and we pray your blessing upon this meeting, and may all be blessed as a result of being in this meeting, and may this credit union and all other credit unions be blessed as they forge ahead in their financial crisis, charting a course and a path so that they can be viable in the midst of financial meltdown. We thank you and we praise you in Jesus' precious name. Amen and amen. God bless you.
Let us pray. Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
(2020) has been a year of turbulent times. We could have never, at the beginning of the year, we never would have anticipated that, we would have never anticipated how this year will turn out. We would have had so many things planned, but as they said, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. And we thank our members for their stalwartness, for their steadfast faith in the cooperative credit union. But especially, we want to just ask you and encourage you, so to speak, to stay strong. As we proceed this afternoon, I would like to draw all members' attention to page 2 of the AGM booklet, where you will see the standing orders. This afternoon, as you would recognize, we will have to do a number of things differently. So we are in a virtual environment, no disrespect to the persons who are here with us, but we're in a virtual environment, and we need to understand that things must still be done with decency and order. So one of the things we need to appreciate is that a member may only address the meeting to the chairperson and must raise their hand on the virtual platform when addressing the chairperson. Only persons who raise their hand in Zoom will be acknowledged, Meaning if you start to speak, if you unmute your mic and you start to speak, we will mute you. No disrespect, we thank you for your understanding in this regard. However, as again, our meeting has specific time limits, and we need to make sure that as much as possible, persons get a chance to express themselves. The maximum duration for anyone to speak would be a minute. And so keep your thoughts, keep your points concise. One of the things I would want you also to note is that you can submit your questions ahead of time, and we will do our best in the time allocated to answer them. Again, when you're submitting questions via the chat, I think you're able to see questions other persons are asking, so you could avoid repeating. If someone has asked a question that you have a particular interest in, no need to repeat the question. Again, we are functioning on a limited time schedule, and we want as much as possible to impart as much information to you without prolonging the meeting. We thank you for showing up this afternoon, those of you who are joining virtually, and those of you who, not being able to join virtually, you were able to come here and share in this time with us. Notice, notwithstanding that the environment has changed, that things have changed, that the business of the credit union, the business of your credit union must still go on, it must still continue. And so I want to just say a special thank you, and I want to just welcome you, that so that you could recognize that no matter what the obstacles, no matter what challenges that we may face, that your credit union is here for you and will continue to work with you through all your and support you through all your troubling times. So thank you for coming out. Welcome again to the 37th annual general meeting for the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. We'll have a swell time. We have a lot of information to share with you, and just sit back, relax, and participate.
Good evening, Board of Directors, committee members, staff members, the general membership. My name is Kajeling Rollins Elliott. I am the Registrar of Credit Unions. My task with you this evening is to confirm the quorum of the 37th Annual General Meeting of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Please be informed that I have checked the virtual registration list and the physical registration list, and I hereby confirm that the quorum has been attained. The business session of the 37th Annual General Meeting of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union Limited will commence at this time. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oren Manners. I'm the Secretary of the Board. Our first task under the business session will be to approve the minutes of last year's AGM. The minutes of the AGM, which was the 36th AGM, can be found on pages 4 to 14 of your booklet. We trust that you have taken the time to read the minutes. The booklets have been out for some time, and they were also distributed virtually. Before we get to the stage of approving the minutes, allow me to mention a few highlights of last year's AGM for those who may not have had a chance to read. The 36th AGM was convened on June 25th, 2019 at the Royal St. Kitts Hotel. The meeting received a feature address from the Deputy Governor of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, Mr. Trevor Brathwaite, who helped us to define success, examine the ways in which the SKCCU is achieving success, and also to identify threats to our success. The board highlighted that in response to predicted slowdowns in economic growth, certain mitigation measures had been put in place, such as making loans more accessible and manageable for members, and reviewing the SKCCU's fees with a view to making its operations more sustainable. Of note, the board also highlighted that increased provisioning for expected credit losses following adoption of the IFRS 9 accounting standard has negatively impacted the institution's retained earnings, and therefore members were admonished to meet their loan commitments to the SKCCU and also to hold each other accountable in this regard. Notwithstanding, the minutes would reflect that the SKCCU recorded several positive financial results for financial year 2018. The loan portfolio grew by almost 11%, member deposits grew by approximately 15%, share capital grew by 8%, and the delinquency rate fell from approximately 17% in 2017 to approximately 10% in 2018. However, delinquency remained a significant concern. As a result of its activities, the SKCCU recorded a comprehensive income in 2018 of $1.9 million. The board was also able to, for the first time, pay dividends at last year's AGM in the form of both cash and shares, specifically 2% in cash and 5% in shares. This was also meant to strengthen the capital base of the institution. The board also signaled its intention to advance specific capital projects, namely the Scenic View Homes project at Douglas Estate and the renovation of the New Street branch, and also signaled its intention to invest in technology to transform the credit union. These are the highlights of the minutes of the 36th AGM. I will now turn you over to the President, who will deal with the motions in respect of these minutes.
Special thank you to the Secretary of the Board, Mr. Owen Manners. There being no amendments, having received no amendments to the minutes, can I have a motion that the minutes be accepted as presented? I will be ably assisted by Director Cleon Bratcher, who would assist me this evening in the calling for the motions and tallying the motions. So a motion is on the floor for the acceptance of the minutes.
We recognize the hand of Claudine Saunders.
Is there a second? We have a second here in the person of Mr. Blake. Mr. Blake, okay. Is there any dissent? If there is no dissent, can all in favor show hands, please? All in favor? How are we doing virtually?
We're doing good.
Say again?
We're doing good virtually.
You're doing good? Okay, awesome. There being no dissent, we could take the easy part and just basically say that it's been unanimously adopted. Okay. Okay, so the motion is carried for the adoption of the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. And just to note, moving forward, we will allow persons on the Zoom platform to state your full name in terms of passing the motion as well. Up next, we have our committee reports.
Thank you. Members and friends, the pleasure is mine to report on our stewardship over the last year, specifically the financial year 1st of January 2019 to 31st of December 2019. So the board of Directors report for the 37th Annual General Meeting. Now, the first thing I would like to do is to just highlight some of the stuff that we have done. And I just want to tell you, your credit union has been working hard for you. And without a vision, the people perish. So we have sat down, we looked at the strategic plan, which basically expired last year, and we have looked at where do we want to go for the next 5 years. And so what we have put out, what we have come up with, and we would like you to embrace, and we are sharing it with you now, is a vision to build generational financial partnerships on the foundation of exceptional customer service. In other words, you are the center of everything. Our new mission is to empowering our members to improve their quality of life through holistic financial management. And our core values, what do we stand for? Inclusiveness, equality, self-reliance, progress, collaboration, and care. What initiatives did we do or have we taken over the last year? We have had significant plans for rebranding, the issuance of debit cards, and I know a lot of persons have been asking for that for all members. The upgrading of our ATMs, yes, we have heard the arguments that the ATMs are not working, but we want to not just upgrade them, but introduce smart machines, machines that facilitate you interacting with the credit union in real time. We have also sought to reduce the paper so that we could make better use of our branches, of our physical space, by putting less reliance on them and saving the planet, going green. So we are implementing a document management system. By extension of that document management system, we are going to be offering online loan application and processing and facilitate you seamlessly uploading your documents. Since last year, our big project, we spoke to you about our initiative as it relates to the lands at Douglas Estate. And we gave you a taste. We showed you some of the initiatives that some of the designs, some of those exciting designs that we wanted you to be able to tap into. Now, notwithstanding some challenges, I can say to you that we have already onboarded a project manager, and save for COVID, we have basically started the project. We will, no matter what, as I indicated earlier, we could be slowed down, but we will not stop working for you. We have also been working in creating a culture in terms of the organization so that we could be more efficient, that we could serve you, but again, making sure that you are the center. Now, we face tremendous threats. The liquidity of commercial banks have resulted in them targeting our members. So a lot of times we are seeing members coming and saying that these other financial institutions are asking them to move their loans. One of the things I would like to ask you, and I would like to remind you right now, remember that you own this institution. And it is unfortunate that you may think it is okay to empty out your house and put your stuff in someone else's house, to build up someone else's house, and at the end of the year still look for a dividend. I ask you to invest in your credit union. Challenges also come from loan sharking, persons who offer easy loans but at some serious and high costs, where members do not benefit. We also face challenges from a continuing stream of newer and harsher regulations, mostly originating from first world countries, especially in the area of anti-money laundering and international financial reporting standards. The one that hurts us the most is when you, our members, don't watch our backs. This is your institution. When you borrow from this institution and you do not repay, you are hurting yourself. You're hurting the persons next to you. You're hurting your own family, and you are actually destroying your legacy. Notwithstanding, what measures have we put in place? The SKCCU and the credit union movement as a whole remains strong. The state of the union is strong. The board of directors and the officers continue to be diligent in executing our fiscal and fiduciary responsibilities. We have been meeting the required safe operating parameters as defined by the World Council of Credit Unions PERS ratio. We mitigate our risks by having active internal audits, compliance and supervisory functions, and the annual external audit which has been performed by BDO for 2019. We are following guidance from the FSRC, the CCCCU, and WOCU on how to navigate the coronavirus pandemic to protect the value of our credit union for the long term. Highlights. SKCCU has had another successful year. Notwithstanding the challenges, total comprehensive income of $1.7 million for 2019. We have maintained our full loan loss provisioning throughout the year, even though this has reduced our earnings. And again, I draw attention to when our members, your fellow members, when we hurt each other by being delinquent. In 2019, our membership grew. It grew by 1,023 members. We continue to look out for the needs of our members through offering competitive interest rate and low fees. We continued our service for you by increasing and in fact enrolling from last year in loan loss provisioning. So members who have loans of $27,000 or less, you're automatically covered at no cost to you. We are able to pay dividends on your investment to you, our members. We need to be prepared for whatever 2020 will throw our way. We are not invincible. Wisdom dictates that we work together for the benefit of all. You must endeavor to save, to protect your financial futures, pay down your loans, do not accumulate arrears, and spend your money wisely. Borrow from your credit union, speak to our staff when experiencing difficulties in paying before situations escalate. But one of the things I would personally like to encourage you is to borrow for productive use. Borrow to enhance and extend and provide generational wealth. Borrow for your business. Borrow to grow and be more successful. As we said at the beginning, we are with you through all your financial needs, from cradle to the grave. You would understand that our income projections for 2020 may not be achieved given these circumstances, even though we are making every effort to curtail our expenditure. To date, we have not had to let go staff. We have not had to cut our services to you. But this may not continue if our members don't keep the faith, don't keep diligent. We continue to pray for the best outcome and assure you that we will get through this together. At this time, before I close, I just want to take the opportunity to commend the dedicated efforts of our volunteers, officers, and staff. I extend a special welcome to all our new staff and new members who have joined us since the last AGM. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I thank you all for attending virtually and physically and for your continued support, which help us to guarantee the lasting success of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. Thank you.
The year 2019 was noteworthy, and your credit committee is pleased to report on our activities for the year. The Society continued to embrace the 3-year strategic plan in our quest to become the foremost dynamic member-focused credit union in the OECS by 2025. Our focus for the past year was to ensure that we meet the needs of our members and that they receive priority attention in a timely and efficient manner. We have allowed that focus to guide our decision-making throughout the year. This was evident through the launch of various loan promotions such as small business, mortgage blast, used vehicles, home repairs, festival, and Christmas loans. For the year under review, the credit committee was made up of 6 members and attendance as follows: Jennifer Truss Clark, member; Vernice Morton, Secretary, Doretta Freites, Member, Camelita Huggins, Member, and myself, Sherman Casey, Chairperson. Our stewardship over the last year has resulted in the granting of more than 1,600 new loans to our members. The following provides details of the loans granted and our current position as the end of December 2019. The charts and graphs make a comparison over a 3-year period from 2017 to 2019. The charts illustrate the growth patterns in several loan categories, which is a positive testament to the hard work and dedication of the loans department. In 2019, there was an increase in total value of loans at 36.68 million when compared to the total value of 33.98 million in 2018 and 30.63 million in 2017, respectively. The total value of loans increased in 2019 with an increase of 7.65% in the total number of loans approved to 1,605 when compared to 2018 and 5.87% decrease when compared to 2017. The increase in total loans in 2019 was a result of an increase in 4 major categories of loans, namely commercial, vacation and travel, mortgages, and promotional loans. Our total loan portfolio continues to grow and at the end of 2019 stood at $106,727,623. The delinquency portfolio at the end of 2019 stood at $6.2 million, representing a decrease of $3.2 million or 34% from the $9.5 million position at the end of 2018. Past due loans up to 3 months declined from $3.5 million in 2018 to $2.7 million. Past due 3 to 6 months went from $619,864 to $1.5 million, while 6 to 12 months decreased from $1.4 million to $964,729. The 12-month and over-impaired loans continued to provide a significant challenge. However, there was a significant reduction from $3.9 million to $1 million. As a result, at the end of December 2019, the delinquency rate stood at 5.92%. We are now calling on our membership to keep their commitments to the credit union and to visit us in a timely manner if at any time they are unable to honor their obligations. We can only provide members more latitude with the loan requests if they demonstrate commitment to their responsibilities. In conclusion, the Credit Committee is pleased with the confidence reposed in it by the membership. We have endeavored to be diligent in our efforts and will continue to do so in the ensuing year. The SKCCU continues to forge ahead in meeting the needs of its members for provident and productive loans. We as a committee continue to make our contribution to that effort. We would like to thank the management and staff for their continued cooperation. Special thanks also to the board and supervisory committee and the general membership for their continued confidence in us.
The committee comprised 5 individuals. They were yours truly, Antoinette R. Hodge, Chairman, Juliet Ward, Secretary, Willa Liebert, Member, Althea Esdale, Member, Desiree Connor, Member. The Compliance Transaction Monitoring Report was reviewed.
The noteworthy deficiencies for both branches were missing copies of source of funds, expired identification cards, and member information on the account was either obsolete or incomplete. The following remedial actions were proposed to the board. 1. Have a checklist of all the information that is required to complete any transaction. 2. Acquire a flagging system on the CruiseNet software that would prohibit the officer from proceeding to the other page or accepting the information with missing data. And 3. Encourage members to use identification documents with longer expiration dates, like 10 years. Example, Social Security card, passport, or national ID card. The internal auditor's loan application report was reviewed. Issues found in the said report were irregular signatures, no proof of address, and no debt-to-equity ratio calculations. Recommendation: care should be taken to ensure that members' loan files are properly maintained with complete and accurate information. Dormancy report. The dormant account report was reviewed to detect possible activity on any account listed as dormant. There were no activities on any dormant account for the period January 1, 2019 to December 31, 2019. Loan status for the board, committee members, and the staff. The committee reviewed the loan status of the members of the board of directors, the credit committee, the supervisory and compliance committee, and the staff members. The committee is pleased to inform that as at the 31st of December 2019, all loans were being serviced as required, and there were no arrears. Recommendation: loan officers should continue to monitor the status of those loans to prohibit potential delinquencies. Conclusion: on behalf of the Supervisory and Compliance Committee, I take this opportunity to say a hearty thank you to my fellow committee members for their cooperation during the course of the year. To the staff members, I say thank you for your assistance. And to the SKCCU members, thank you for your confidence in our oversight.
My name is Cleon Bradshaw, and I'm the chairman of the Education and Membership Committee. The committee consists of a secretary, who is Mrs. Shermel Woods, a member, Ms. Marilyn Johnson, and our coordinator, Ms. Julie Charles. The Education and Membership Committee is mandated to guarantee that membership of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union is well informed about the products and services that the institution offers, and that members receive all the benefits which are entitled. These benefits include the consistent delivery of exceptional service from our member services, which is in keeping with the credit union movement operating principles. In addition to that, we provide financial education. We try to bring exceptional services through all service channels, and we try to implement outreach initiatives, including forums and pop-up shops and just different seminars that we would have. The Member Education Forum is to educate members by offering topics that are interesting and relevant to the times. We bring topics such as health, finance, getting a mortgage, what it means to have insurance, what do you need to purchase a house. The benefit of the Family Indemnity Plan was one of the topics that we presented on in 2019. It was coordinated or facilitated by Mr. Patrick Thompson, who is our CUNA representative, and in that he was able to allow our members to have a better insight and understanding of the FIP. We also did a session in Christmas last year on managing your finances, understanding that at certain times of the year we have peak spending, and the committee decided that was a good time to, persons getting their double salary to kind of say, hey, take a step back. Don't just look at the money that you have in your bank account now and think to spend it now. Let's see how you can use that money wisely. Put that money to work for you, plan, save, put it towards a project that would benefit you instead of just spending on secular activities. There were a few outreach initiatives as well. And, I am a volunteer. So I don't work at 8 to 4 at St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. So most of the work that happens, it happens by the staff. The staff who plan it, they coordinate, they bring everything together. I'm just a representative from the board per se. So I really want to give special shout out to the staff, thank them for their hard work, for always being very dutiful and very willing to assist and help in anything that I would ask of them. If you look into your handbook on page 36 and 34, you would see the committee's report, which would have gone into much more detail as to the things that we would have tried to do. Once you have access to the booklet, you would see that the report has some pictures. It has all the stats and everything that you would need to view to see what the committee has done throughout the year. In closing though, I would like to say that the committee remains committed in the advancement of our membership through education and through initiatives that would benefit them. We would like to express our sincerest thanks to the members and staff of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. Thank you for your devotion to help the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union grow. And special thanks and big shout out to the staff. Without the staff, none of this would have been possible. So I'd like to admonish us to continue to strive for excellence in every area so that collectively we can reap financial reward.
Members and friends, the pleasure is mine.
Just want to thank all of our committee chairs, our president for those words, and we'll now have a motion. We'll do a single motion to collectively pass or collectively accept the reports as presented this afternoon. In this time, we'll ask for someone in the audience
Director Bradshaw has already opened up the facilities. He has already put on the floor. I just want to reiterate and actually ask, he has already outlined that we are going to take the reports collectively. So at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion from either the floor or virtually in terms of acceptance of the reports presented. So can I have a motion that the reports be accepted as presented? I recognize Massicott, Director Massicott from the floor. Who's the second?
Can you state your full name for us, please? Can you state your name for us, please?
Christmas?
Yes. Leonardo A. Christmas.
Yes.
We thank you for that, for seconding that motion.
Okay. Are there any dissents? If there are no dissents, then can we take it that the reports have been accepted unanimously? We are taking it that the reports have been accepted unanimously if there are no dissents. Okay, so the motion is carried.
Thank you, Mr. President. The motion has been carried. Next on our agenda, we'll have the auditor's report.
Good evening. My name is Raquel Glynn, and I'm a partner in the BDO Antigua office. As a partner in charge of the Credit Union's office, I have been asked to read the audit report related to the 2019 audit. Before I do so, I would like to thank Mrs. Harris and the accounting team for their cooperation in ensuring that we were able to obtain the audit evidence needed to render our opinion. We tested the internal controls in place at the credit union and also sample transactions entered into during the year. As a result of the test performed, we were able to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence which allowed us to issue the audit report, which I will now read. Independent Auditor's Report. To the members of St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Opinion. We have audited the financial statements of St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union Limited, the credit union, which comprise the Statement of Financial Position at December 31st, 2019, the Statements of Profit or Loss and Other Comprehensive Income, changes in members' equity and cash flows for the year then ended, and notes comprising significant accounting policies and other explanatory information. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the credit union as at December 31st, 2019, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRSs. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with the International Standards on Auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statement section of our report. We are independent of the credit union in accordance with the International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, IESBA code. And we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Emphasis of matter. Without qualifying our opinion, we draw attention to Note 28, Subsequent Events, where management has described the impact of the recent outbreak of the coronavirus, COVID-19, has had on the credit union after the year ended, indicating that an estimate of the financial effect on the credit union cannot be made at this point. Other information. Management is responsible for the other information. The other information comprises the information included in the annual report but does not include the financial statements and our auditor's report thereon. Our opinion on the financial statements does not cover the other information, and we do not express any form of assurance conclusion thereon. In connection with our audit of the financial statements, our responsibility is to read the other information and in doing so, consider whether the other information is materially inconsistent with the financial statements or our knowledge obtained in the audit, or otherwise appears to be materially misstated. If, based on the work we have performed, we conclude that there is a material misstatement of this other information, we are required to report that fact. We have nothing to report in this regard. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance for the financial statement. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements in accordance with IFRS and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the credit union's ability to continue as a going concern, disclosing as applicable matters related to going concern, and using the going concern basis of accounting unless management either intends to liquidate the credit union or to cease operations or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the credit union's financial reporting process. Auditors' responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue an auditor's report that includes our opinion. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it is not a guarantee that an audit conducted in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error, and are considered material if individually or in the aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of the audit, in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. We also identify and assess risk of material misstatement of financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than for one resulting from error, as fraud may include collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal control. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the credit union's internal controls. Evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies used and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of management's use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on a credit union's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention in our audit report to the related disclosures in the financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of our auditor's report. However, future events and conditions may cause the credit union to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of the financial statements, including the disclosures, and whether the financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that achieves fair presentation. We communicate with those charged with governance regarding, among other things, the plan, scope, and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal controls that we identify during our audit. Signed, BDO, Chartered Accountants, June 10th, 2020, Antigua and Barbuda.
Thank you to... Special thank you to our auditors, BDO. We now open the floor. Can I have a motion that the auditor's report be accepted? I recognize the hand in the back. Your name? Second? Sinclair Tyson. Is there a second? Virtually or...
Virtually on the live. If you raise your hand, you'll be recognized. Virtually, if anyone would like to second this motion, kindly raise your hand and you'll be recognized.
If there's no one virtually, can anyone else here can I have a second here, please? Do we have a second? There's someone virtually?
Okay, seconded.
Seconded by your full name? S. Lawrence. Samuel Lawrence. Samuel Lawrence. Okay. So we have a motion and we have a second. Are there any objections to the auditor's report? If not, can all in favor say aye? Or if there is no dissent, I'll just take it that it is unanimously carried. Aye. Okay, awesome.
Aye.
Thank you. And there are no dissent, right?
I have one person whose hand is up.
That's a late second?
Yeah, I think that's a late second.
Okay. I'm sorry that you didn't raise your hand earlier, but if you're not dissenting, and it's not a dissent, right?
I'll just confirm.
Excuse me,
Yes.
from the live.
Oh.
I'm sorry, if you just unmute your mic without being recognized, you will be muted. So can you raise your hand, please, and you will be recognized. We recognize Aisha Webster on the floor at the moment.
Okay, go ahead. Aisha Webster? She's...
Okay, Aisha, you unraised your hand, so I guess that means you're okay.
Who was that person, though? Who was asking?
She was raising her hand, I just was recognizing her. She's a past volunteer.
She's a...
Okay. All right, we can now move on with our proceedings.
She changed her mind?
The person that unmuted their mic just now, could you raise your hand once again? And we will recognize you. If you do not, we will continue. Please save your questions for the question and answer section if the question has nothing to do with the motion at the moment. Okay. We recognize Darcel Warner. Hi, Ms. Warner.
Good evening. This is her daughter. This is her mother who is online right now. We are sharing the same link. There is a prompt that came up on the screen before you ask for a seconder, and I follow the prompt. And then you ask, so that means that prompt is not necessary if you're going to send up the prompt and then don't use it.
The prompt is to prompt you. So
yes, and it has two options there, and then says submit, so I submitted. Nevertheless, let's move on.
Okay, thank you for that observation.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll now move on.
Go ahead.
We'll now move on to our next presentation, which would come from our treasurer, Mr. Keatley Phillips. Mr. Ivor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Master of Ceremonies. Good evening to all members of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. By way of general overview, the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union continues to build upon the principle of remaining financially sound. In 2019, the institution maintained close monitoring of key performance indicators, as well as the changing international financial reporting standards, laws, and regulations that could have financial impact upon your credit union. If you turn with me to your 2019 annual report, beginning on page 91, I will go through some of the key performance indicators. For the balance sheet, the assets, in 2019, the assets of the credit union grew by 11.3%, or translated into dollars, $17.1 million, to amount to $168 million. In the previous year, assets grew by 11.7%, or $15.8 million. The 2019 growth was due primarily to the increase in loans. Total assets over the last 5 years has an average annual rate of 12.8%, and for this current period grew by 54.2% in total over the past 5 years. Loans to members grew by 16.1%, or $14.5 million, compared to 10%, or $8.3 million in 2018. Total loans represent 62.4% of total assets. Aggregate loans, $105 million. Your balance sheet. Liabilities, the ratio of members' deposits to total assets stood at 80.7%. The members' deposits grew by 12.1%, or $14.6 million, when compared to the previous year, when 15.2% growth was experienced, and $16 million. Equity. Members' equity increased by 7.8% in 2019. Members' shares increased by 13.4%, or $1 million, compared to an increase of 8% in the previous year. Reserves increased by 5.8%, or $1.2 million, compared to a decrease of 3.6% in 2018. The decrease in 2018 was as a result of the reduction in retained earnings as we transitioned to the IFRS 9. The income statement. Operating income increased by 21.6%, or $1.7 million, compared to a reduction of 4.1%, or $412,000 in 2018. Interest income from loans, being the main revenue stream, increased by 17%. Other income increased by 54%, mainly because of increase in bad debt recovered over the previous year. This bad debt recovered amounted to 423.8%. Operating expenses. These increased by 27.1%, or $1.8 million, compared to an increase of 9.5% in the previous year. The main contributor to the 2019 increase was bad debt expense, which increased by 204.6%, or $1.2 million. Delinquency. IFRS 9 is now fully implemented within the institution. Though the rate of delinquency reduced from 10% at December 31st, 2018 to 6% at December 31st, 2019, the institution continues to face challenges in the area of delinquency. The institution is well aware that the end results of COVID-19 could have adverse effects on its loan portfolio. At worst, the situation could render some loans unrecoverable. The institution, however, remains vigilant and will work together with members to minimize the adverse effects that may arise. For this year, we have included the PEARLS rating, and just quickly, the average rating was 2.1% out of a possible 5%. We did strongly in the signs of growth, with a growth in total assets of 10.82%. We also did well in the savings deposit to total assets of 80.68%, and in the net institutional capital over the total assets, 14.27%. At this time, Mr. Chair, I would invite the motion.
Okay. Members and friends, you have heard the Treasurer's report. Can I have a motion that the Treasurer's report be accepted as presented? Motion, I recognize the hand of Mr. Christmas. Any motions?
Yes, Rafa Bailey.
Second?
Rafa Bailey.
We recognize the second by
Mr. Rafa Bailey.
Rafa Bailey. Are there any objections to the Treasurer's report? If there be no objections, all in favor, kindly raise your hands.
Aye.
Aye. There being no dissent, those against? There being no dissent, the motion is carried.
Thank you very much. Dividends. The board has considered the 2019 financial performance and has concluded that the institution, your credit union, is in a position to pay a dividend. It is recommended that a 7% dividend be paid. Following the trend which began last year, it is further recommended that the dividend be broken down as 3% in shares and 4% in cash. The board is pleased that it can pay a dividend to its well-deserving members at this time, knowing that some of us are facing financial hardship currently as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The treasurer, you have heard the treasurer outlined that we are pleased to offer you 7% dividend in the ratio of 4% cash, 3% shares. Can I have a motion that the recommendation for dividend be accepted? Recognize the hands of Mr. Christmas.
Mr. Christmas, could you just come up to the mic, please?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I don't know if this is the appropriate time to raise a question, but now that we are on dividend, you could let me know if it is the correct time in raising a question, because
if the question is on dividends, the dividend motion on the floor, yes, you can raise the question. If it's not on the dividend, then we will discuss any questions in a lump sum after.
Good. Then I'll proceed.
Okay.
Okay. For the time and the years, when it comes to the AGM and dividend declarations and payment, I've always expected, and I'm sure every member and most members also expect, that when an AGM is called, that would also be the time that everything is already summarized by the auditors and the accountants to know what position we are in time enough for the dividend payment to be made directly the same time or within a prompt time thereafter, rather than, as it's been the status quo, where every time this happens, you have to wait 2 months, 3 months, question after question, not knowing when exactly the dividend payment or share will be actually commenced. And that is my statement and question at the same time. Can we, as a financial institution, bring up the part in which the dividend payment is made, especially since this is now from December 31st all the way down to July or whenever. You had plenty months, a whole half a year, rather than waiting all the way down to September, October for the payment of dividends. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Christmas, for your question and your comments. One of the things I would like to reiterate that no matter what the financial position of the credit union is, that while we will recommend that the annual general meeting has to approve the dividend, this is the place where dividends have to be approved. Okay? So that being said, the other issue would be we have always and we continue to endeavor to ensure that AGMs are called as quickly as possible after the financial year end. And we must recognize that this year, notwithstanding our best efforts, that we have had exceptional circumstances, but we've been working assiduously since last year. In fact, we even took the proactive step of having a hard close for interim audit, just to be able to call an AGM as soon as possible after the financial year end. So I want to assure you, and this, I will ask the CEO to make any additional comments on this, but I just want to assure you that we as a board, as volunteers, and as volunteers trying to serve our fellow men, take our fiduciary duties very seriously in terms of ensuring that we are good stewards of the resources that you have entrusted to this credit union.
We have one raised hand. Ms. Dasselwana, you're recognized.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Emily Paul on the line.
Yes.
The proposal of the shares and the cash. I ask a question. How far or how long are we going to continue? Now, what if I don't want any more shares? How much shares should a member have in order to be a continued member of the credit union? If I have 500 shares or 5,000 shares, do the credit union has the authority to give me more shares if I don't wish to have shares? Because I'm foreseeing a difficulty, because I asked a question 2 years ago concerning an issue about shares that are not being able to. I know Mr. Strawn told me that the rule about not recouping shares from other persons. But I requested something to look into getting shares back from persons when they are in financial difficulty. How many more shares would credit union give to its members, even if that member individually do not wish to have any more shares? How long would this particular pattern continue? Does the credit union looking at a particular number of shares to make the share holding of the institution viable? How far do we have to go in this particular order? That's my question for this time being.
Thank you very much for your question. The CEO will weigh in and provide some guidance.
Thank you for your questions and comments. We are trying to really make sure that the institution is strong, that we have the necessary capital to withstand whatever comes our way. By law, our shares percentage of total assets should be 10%. At this point in time, we are at 5%. So if you're talking about how far do we have to go, we have a long way to go. And because we are not getting the voluntary purchase of shares, people prefer to make deposits than to buy shares. And we understand the concerns because there is not a ready market for the shares. But if the institution is to show to our regulators and to our members who have concern about the strength of our institution, that we are making some sort of effort to ensure that we meet that requirement, then that was the only alternative we can think of. Instead of distributing cash, we distribute both shares and cash. And so it is not that you make more return on your shares because, for example, you probably make 2% on your deposits, but now we are going to give 4% on the shares. And understand that persons would like to have all of that cash in hand, but what sense does it make for us to be giving out cash when probably if we didn't do that 5% for 2018, we probably would not be at 5% of our assets. The institutional capital would be way below what it is now, and we would be having some reprimands from our regulators, and even the auditors would have to weigh in on that. So it is something that we, as the owners of the institution, must make some sort of choice. What can we do? What else can we do in order to bring up the institutional capital and bring up the level of shares? Because as you see, the deposits are rolling in, but in terms of shares, we are not getting that voluntary purchase of the shares. So we can't just sit back as the managers of the institution and allow this to continue. We have to do something to share up our capital. So that is what we decided to do. We hope you understand, and we are still thinking of other ideas. We want to make sure that there is some sort of internal market for the shares, that if somebody wants to sell, we can find a buyer. We didn't really have the right technology, the platform to do that sort of thing, but as we improve in that area, we should be able to make progress in terms of finding you a buyer internally. Not because we're not going to be listing on an exchange, but it is something that we would do internally to help persons, especially, as you say, some persons are retired and they really need to sell their shares, and we are really cognizant of that, and we continue to work on it.
Chair recognize Mr. Lawrence.
What happened to me? I'm chopped liver.
Mrs. Warner, just hold 1 second. We recognize that your hand is up, and we'll come to you right after.
There's a suggestion that I have to increase the share capital of the credit union.
Yes.
You had over 1,000 members that joined the institution last year. The new members should be allowed to buy shares as part of their membership. Rather than 20, it should be about 40. So every new member, once they come in to be members of the credit union, their shareholding should be at least 40 shares. Move it from 20 to 40. And the present members should be encouraged to buy more shares. And thirdly, you used to accept shares as security for loans, but you don't do that now.
No, we do.
You still do that now?
Yes.
Because the last time I came in there to do some business, I was told that you don't take shares as security for loans.
That was 2 years
ago? It was cash, right?
Yeah.
They had to tie up the cash for cash, which I think was foolish. No. If you're lending me cash, and you're going to tie up my saving account just to get your cash, a lot of people then draw back their shareholding. They turn their shares into savings, and they just pull it out of the credit union. So I am saying, I just said, that you have reversed that old policy, which is foolish, in my opinion. So you take the share certificate, the quantum of share against the loan. So the borrower is still a shareholder, and he doesn't have to take out his shares out of the company. So these are little suggestions that I suggest. The newcomers should purchase at least 40 shares, move from 20 to 40, so you're still in the poor man pocket. I don't say 100, I was thinking about $500, I said no. And fourthly, your competitor, well, I would say your sister organization, which is the FND, has now reduced their shares to $1. Right, that again is another proposal.
Yes.
Because, Hasford's and even the Bank of Nevis, shares are going at $4.25. And your share is $5 for one. So I think that you should do what the FND Credit Union did, and that is to reduce your share. So that will be an attraction, because my $5 in the FND give me 5 shares. In your institution, or in our institution, my $5 give me 1 share. So again, you have to revisit the costs,
Yes.
and you have to revisit the newcomers, and at least I think you should raise the bar from 20 to 40. And then, because if you convert those $5 share into $1 share, see, you have it there, the kind of capital that you need for the market. That's my suggestion for now.
Thank you so much,
5 suggestions. Yeah.
Mr. Lawrence. If I'm to...
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Lawrence. We recognize your suggestions, and it's a balancing act. Yes, we need to make sure that the shares, the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union remains attractive and accessible. And so I will take your last suggestion first, where we have actually, and a member can actually raise on the floor a motion to split the shares of the Cooperative Credit Union from $5 shares to $1 shares. We have discussed it. I actually have before me the details of such a motion. So if you were to raise this from the floor, and if it is accepted by 75% of the bodies, the persons online today, and here we can amend the bylaws with your blessing, the appropriate bylaws to split the shares from $5 shares to $1 shares, just to make sure that you are aware of that. Yes? The Cooperative Act provides that if we did not provide the details of this amendment ahead of time, that once we are clear that we are splitting the shares, it must be accepted by at least 75%. If we didn't do advance notification of this, at least 75% of the persons attending this AGM. So I say that to say that we are not against that, and we recognize in the vein of encouraging and making the shares accessible. Because you would then mean that if you were to encourage people to do 40 shares, or even if you were to keep the 100 share, the share value, members would be able to achieve more shares, and it would make it easier to continue to raise capital. So this is possible on the.
So you're saying that if I move a motion right now,
and it is.
Could you come forward? Could you come forward to the mic so that everyone could hear you?
Is 75% of the motion.
So what you're saying that if I move a motion right now, and we have the viral and those of us who are in here, and we agreed today, right, those present at the AGM and those who have a virtual connection, if I propose the motion today that the credit union shares be reduced from $5 to $1, and we have the 75% consent, that will become automatic. That's what you're saying? We have to come back at another meeting.
We are advised by the FSRC.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we are advised by the regulators that it would be more prudent to issue a resolution to amend the bylaws prior to the AGM. So what we will propose, that we will put this forward and have a special AGM. And as you could see, we can do it virtually to be able to pursue this splitting of the shares. Okay. So we do take your suggestion on board in terms of increasing capital. I don't know if the CEO want to add anything else. Suffice to say that we are looking at...
still here waiting.
Oh, sorry.
I am still waiting.
We recognize your hand, Mrs. Warner. The President is still speaking. Can you continue, Mr. President?
What I would say, Ms. Warner, if your question relates to this specific matter, I will hear your question now.
Yes, I wanted to piggyback on what the manager was saying, in terms of 10%. If we have X number of members, how can we raise that 10%? So that it doesn't look as if you're just handing out shares. Are we going to ask the board to say that each member should have at least 500 shares so that they can keep the institution afloat And if I wish to, I can go above the 500, but don't add to mine because you don't know how many shares I have already have. Now, in addition to that, the gentleman, Mr. Lawrence, spoke about the attractiveness from the other side, but there is a minimum. You must have 150 shares in order to join. We have that minimum of 100. So if we now decide that as we start as a member of the credit union, the St. Kitts Credit Union, we must have this X number of shares, so that if we have 1,000 members, our 1,000 members will be able to give us what we need in the 10%, and then we can always build on that. But just don't keep adding on shares and adding on shares. That is my concern, just adding on shares. Because I'm in a member, I have not taken a loan from credit union in over a decade. So if I wish to come now and take a loan, and I'm hearing about not using the shares, it's not true. So I pray that we can look at the how we can raise the 10% rather than just adding on shares across the board. Make everybody be able to at least 300 shares, 200 shares, 500 shares, whatever it is it needs, and then it is up to the other members now if they wish to add more to that normalcy, that bottom level. Put it that way.
Okay.
All right. That's lowest part. That is what I have.
Okay, so we hear you, Miss Warner. Mrs. Warner?
Miss Warner.
Miss Warner, we hear your concern, and we
will...
Warner
Paul. Warner Paul.
It's not Warner?
Warner Paul.
Warner Paul. I apologize. And we will look at your suggestion more closely. We understand what you are saying, and we will do some more work on that and see how we can come up with a way that all of the members would be pleased with. Now, if we raise the threshold for members to come in, you realize that that would mean that we will be excluding some persons, and that goes against our credit union values, where we want to make it as open as possible for persons to be able to join the credit union. But there is also a facility where people can put in over a period of time and then become a member. Maybe after a year, they would continue to buy shares until they reach that level. So that's also something we could begin to implement as well if we decide to raise the threshold. The issue about not being able to use your shares, I think at one time, for a short moment, we were going down that route, but we quickly turned around because we realized that the bylaws says that you can use your shares as security for your loan. So that is no longer in place. If you hear anybody saying that, please let them know that that is not true. You can use your shares as security for your loan.
Just one final comment as it relates to dividends is that we have to recognize as we grow and persons put deposit into the credit union that the goalposts also move. One the interesting thing to note is that if our capital falls below 5%, we are unable to pay dividends. And so it's a balancing act. And so sometimes you have to weigh the pros and cons. Do I get a sort of reward so that I could continue to be able to get dividend and increase in dividend, or do you want to have it a hard and fast approach where it must be cash, and if we have continuous investments in terms of deposit and our capital falls below 5%, we will by law be unable to pay dividends. Not because we didn't make a profit or not, but because our capital fell below 5%. And so you have to understand that as a cooperative, we are guided not just by our financial performance, but also by the law to ensure that the institution remains safe and has adequate capital to protect members' deposits.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. I would really like to keep any more questions unless necessary. Does it have to do with the motion?
The dividends?
With the dividends? If you could do it in a quick 30 seconds, then it's welcome. After you present, we will ask that a motion be passed for acceptance of dividends.
Okay, good day. Since we're on the issue, right, I'll make it quick and brief. Especially for members who it is want to access the loan services, and they're going to loan officers, and we're still trying to get the 10% to the deposit. Okay, how about this? Since we want to make it easy for members to come in. Number one, I'm not with the whole dollar per share because I like value or bang for my bucks. Number two, when it is accessing the loans, how about, since we are all about interest rate and bringing in money, how about we give, because most of these 15% promotional rates shouldn't be applied to members who it has been borrowing 4 and 5 and 6 times and bringing in money all the time. So I think we need to have a better interest rate for members who it is been here, buying loans, buying shares at excessive amounts and still always getting a loan. So I think we need to look at the interest rate as a deterrent or an effective way to raise the percentage of shares, and also, basically, use the interest rate. 15% for promotional, that is supposed to apply for people who have been borrowing all the time and have a lot of shares. Period.
Thank you, Mr. Christmas.
That's interesting.
Thank you so much. We'll take your suggestion on the advisement, but thank you nonetheless, and thank you for thinking outside of the box. We welcome that and we encourage that from our members. At this time, I would like to put the motion to a vote. All in favor that the motion, recommendation of the 7% dividends be accepted. So can I have a vote by show of hands, please? Online? Including you online, please?
Including online persons,
Including
yes.
online persons. Can I have a show of hands, please? Could you raise your hands?
Hands are being raised. Okay.
Any dissent? Okay. There's something? Do we have any dissents? If there are no dissents, then the motion is carried. Okay, so the motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, members. Maximum liability ceiling. In keeping with the recommendations of the last 3 years, I propose that we set the maximum liability ceiling at Eastern Caribbean dollars 5 million for 2020. This is the maximum amount that the board can borrow without special approval from you, the members.
So the motion is on the floor. I'm putting the motion. Can I have a mover for the motion in terms of our maximum liability ceiling?
Persons on the virtual environment as well, you're asked to raise your hand. You'll be recognized. We recognize Anique Bedford, and we recognize Myrtle Nicholas.
The mover is
Anique Bedford,
and the Miss
Myrtle
Nicholas.
Okay. First and second?
First and second.
So we have a first and second from the virtual environment. Are there any dissents, online or otherwise? No dissents?
No dissents on the virtual.
So then the motion is carried. Thank you so much.
Honorarium for volunteers. It has been customary during the Christmas season to provide a gift to staff and volunteers as a token of appreciation for the work done over the past year. The total amount is approved by the Board of Directors each year in keeping with the amount that can be afforded based on the performance of our credit union. The Cooperative Societies Act provides for the payment of an honorarium to directors, provided that it does not exceed an amount approved from time to time by a general meeting of the members. Members are therefore asked to authorize the board to continue to approve the annual Christmas gift / honorarium to directors and committee members in an amount not exceeding East Caribbean dollars 75,000 annually.
It is holistically, yeah, it's for two. Yeah, everything is just the total amount. Because it is.
Speak to the mic. Speak to the mic.
Okay.
Speak to the mic.
No, that was just a discussion.
Okay.
So the motion is on the floor. Can I have a mover that the Board of Directors, your credit union, continue to A, provide a gift not to exceed in total 75,000 per annum to the directors and volunteers. And we're talking about not just the Board of Directors, the credit committee, the supervisory committee, education committee, persons who volunteer for the league, etc., persons who serve you in any of their capacity, all the volunteers who come in and serve on committees. So can I have a motion that from the general membership that we can continue to pay an honorarium each year not to exceed in aggregate 75,000? We recognize Mr. Samuel Lawrence. Can I have a second?
We have a second from the virtual environment, Mr. Dehan Henry. Also, we'll present this as a vote on the virtual environment for persons to accept. We ask that those in the virtual environment accept. Majority is required for this to be passed, to my understanding.
Okay. Thank you. So we have had a mover and we have had a seconder. Can we put this to a vote? All in favor? Aye. Aye. Virtually, all in favor?
Virtually, the numbers are going up.
Okay.
So persons, you're asked to vote on this motion. We'll just give you 1 more minute for the vote counts to go up, please.
×2.
So we continue.
So we're good?
Not as yet. We're almost good. We need a majority of the online environment to accept or to not accept the motion put forward. On everyone's screen, they will be seeing the vote process. We ask that you accept or do not accept. Okay. Okay, we have now reached to that point of a majority vote to accept the motion as presented for the honorarium to be accepted. We have a majority vote.
Thank you all for your acceptance and for supporting us in this endeavor. Finally, yeah, one, I think is the audit.
The Board of Directors, management, and staff of the SKCCU continues to work together to ensure that the financial stability of your credit union is maintained. The SKCCU remains committed to its operating principles and will continue to work hand in hand with you, the members. Thank you very much for accepting this part of the meeting.
Do we have a write-up on the auditor?
Next, we will have the appointment of auditors.
For the last 2 years, BDO have served us as our auditors. We express sincere thanks for their support. But in this new environment, we have had some challenges in terms of the ability to be able to physically be present, etc. And so we have basically sought to pivot at this time to be able to see how we can ensure that we have access to resources at close proximity to ensure that come next year we can also provide you with timely financials and timely responses. Now, this is no shade to BDO. We thank them very much for their support. But at this point in time, we are recommending that we appoint Grant Thornton, who have served us for several years in the past. And after 2 years, we are going to use them again. So we are recommending to the membership that they accept Grant Thornton as the auditors for the financial year 2020. So at this point in time, I must apologize for not having a formal statement to present to you in terms of Grant Thornton, but we will make sure that that information is published on our website in terms of the full details of our auditors and that you can ask any questions of us. But we are recommending to the membership that we accept Grant Thornton, who have a wealth of information, wealth of experience, and who have assisted us greatly in the past as the auditors for the financial year 2020. So can I have a motion that we accept Grant Thornton as the auditors?
We have a motion from the virtual environment, Ms. Claudine Saunders.
Ms. Claudine Saunders, motion. Do I have a second?
Mr. Victor Lake from the virtual environment has motioned as well.
Victor Lake. Okay. Any dissent? You have a dissent, sir?
Wasn't video performing or was it charging too much?
Could you come to the mic, sorry?
Was BDO not performing as expected or charging too much? In terms of Grant Thornton as the auditor?
Neither. It's more an issue of practicality, and from time to time and on an annual basis, we are able to choose, we are able to rotate between auditors so that we can, as efficiently as possible, ensure that we respond in a timely manner to the issues that face us. In this environment of COVID, you do recognize that, I think you, Mr. Christmas, did recognize the delay in being able to deliver the financials, and not as a fault of Grant Thornton video, but you do recognize that with challenges such like travel with LEAT, etc., they wouldn't be able to come in because they are based in Antigua. They would not be able to come down to St. Kitts and be able to do some of the due diligence that they would need to do to have the quality assurance that is required. So this is not an affront to them or anything to do with their performance. It has to do with us ensuring in the changing environment we have resources that are available to give us the assurances that we need. A lot of words, but I hope you got the final thing, that we are just pivoting based on the times, based on the challenges that we are now facing.
Okay, if there are no further questions.
So if there are no further questions and there are no dissent, we have a first, a second, any dissent? If there are no dissent, then the motion is carried and Grant Thornton would be our auditors for the financial year 2020. Thank you.
Next on our program is the nominating committee report.
In accordance with Article 13, Section 41(1) of the bylaws of St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union Limited, SKCCU, the Board of Directors appoints a nominating committee whose role is to nominate and accept nominations for each vacant position on the Board of Directors, the Credit Committee, Supervisory and Compliance Committee. This is in an effort to ensure continuity of the board and committee once members have retired. The Board of Directors approved the following members for the nominating committee: Mrs. Shermel Woods, Director, Chairperson; Mrs. Janet Harris, CEO; Mrs. Joanna Collins, Member. A pool of eligible members is presented to the Marketing and Member Services Department at the first step of the recruiting process. Following the due diligence done by the nominating committee, potential volunteers who are considered most eligible to fill the vacant positions are presented to the Board of Directors for approval. The nominating committee is pleased to present for elections the following members. For the Board of Directors, Mr. Edward Gifts, Controller of Inland Revenue Department; Mr. Keith Phillip, Manager of St. Kitts Urban Development Corporation Limited. For the Credit Committee, Mrs. Denise Edwards. In accordance with Article 13, Section 41(1) of the bylaws of St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union Limited, SKCCU, the Board of Directors appoints a nominating committee whose role is to nominate and accept nominations for each vacant position on the Board of Directors, the Credit Committee, Supervisory and Compliance Committee. This is in an effort to ensure continuity of the board and committee once members have retired. The Board of Directors approved the following members for the nominating committee: Mrs. Shermel Woods, Director, Chairperson; Mrs. Janet Harris, CEO; Mrs. Joanna Collins, Member. A pool of eligible members is presented to the Marketing and Member Services Department at the first step of the recruiting process. Following the due diligence done by the nominating committee, potential volunteers who are considered most eligible to fill the vacant positions
are presented to the Board of Directors for approval. The nominating committee is pleased to present for elections the following members. For the Board of Directors, Mr. Edward Gifts, Controller of Inland Revenue Department, Mr. Keith Phillip, Manager of St. Kitts Urban Development Corporation Limited. For the Credit Committee, Mrs. Denise Edwards, entrepreneur and retired banking officer. Mrs. Joan Franks, executive assistant at the Chamber of Industry and Commerce and retired banker. Mr. Anthony Wilshire, teacher and director of sports in the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. For the Supervisory and Compliance Committee, Mrs. Yvette Pamela Osborne, retired director of the East Caribbean Central Bank. Notwithstanding the selection by the nominating committee, the members present can nominate any suitable member from the floor. These nominations should have been forwarded 3 days prior to the AGM, given the virtual format this year. If this occurs, then a vote by ballot or show of hands will follow. The nominating committee takes this opportunity to express thanks and gratitude to all outgoing volunteers for their unwavering commitment to the continued progress of the SKCCU. Thank you to Mrs. Sherilyn Massicott, Mrs. Bibiana Henry, Mr. Pierre Borin, Mr. Oren Manners from the Board of Directors, Mrs. Juliet Ward from the Supervisory Committee, Mrs. Jennifer Truss, Mrs. Doretta Clark, and Mr. Sherman Casey from the Credit Committee. Thank you very, very much.
At this time, we'll now call on Council John to conduct the elections.
Good afternoon, everyone. As the chairman indicated, this is the point where we get into the elections. We'll first deal with the elections of members to serve on the Board of Directors. Retiring from the Board of Directors is Mrs. Sherilyn Massicott Miss Sherilyn Massicott, after serving 6 years on the Board of Directors. The proposed nominee to replace Miss Sherilyn Massicott is Mr. Edward Gift. Also retiring from the Board of Directors is Mr. Oren Manners, after serving 6 years on this board. The proposed nominee to replace Mr. Oren Manners is Mr. Keith Phillip. At this point, Mr. Chairman, we will invite a motion for Mr. Edward Gift and Mr. Keith Phillip to be nominated to serve on the Board of Directors.
You have heard Ms. John. Can I have a motion for the acceptance of Mr. Gift and Mr. Phillip to serve on the Board of Directors? Mr. Christmas? Your full name? Leonardo A. Christmas.
And virtually we have Mr. Rafa Bailey, who seconded.
Rafa Bailey. Do we have any dissents? If there are no dissents, then motion will be carried. Any objections? Any objections virtually? No objections, so Mr. Gift, the motion is carried that Mr. Gift and Mr. Keith Phillip.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this point, we would like to find out if there were any nominations from the floor in respect of members to serve on the Board of Directors.
Given, as you heard the chair of the nominating committee indicate, we did not receive any nominations virtually otherwise from the floor, given the fact that we, within the prescribed time. So that being said, there were no nominations from the floor.
Hand is up.
Second?
The hand is up. That's the one.
We did not receive it for nominations.
They put their hand up.
Okay.
At this time, we'd like to recognize the hand of Dassel Warner.
Emerita Warner here. Do you think that statement is correct to say that if you're going to receive nomination from the floor, it means that persons would have had to be at the meeting? If you're not going, how would I know that George, Peter, or Harry is going to be there for nomination? It's the same as if it was a nominating committee. Nominations from the floor must be happening currently. That's all I have to say.
Which is one, thank you so much for your comment. We would have sent out in the email, and once you registered, etc., we would have shared with you that given this year meeting being, the plan to host this year's meeting virtually, we would have asked you to consider persons who are suitable, you having a familiarity with your fellow credit union members. Could you mute your mic, please?
No, continue.
You having a familiarity with your fellow credit unionists. And so, again, in the efficiency of time, and because we are moving virtually, and to ensure due diligence, we would have asked you to submit any nominees no later than 3 days so that we could do our proper validation. We have, us having not received any nomination within the prescribed time, we would have then had to move on to ensure that we could perform and conduct a transparent meeting for you.
At this point, Mr. Chairman, may we invite a motion that nominations in respect of members to serve on the Board of Directors be ceased?
Motion that nomination for Board of Directors cease. Mr. Tyson. Full name? Sinclair Tyson. Second? Do we have a second? Virtually or otherwise? Mr. Owen Manners and Felicia Watley. That being said, nominations for the...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In light of that, Mr. Chairman, we can state that Mr. Edward Gift and Mr. Keith Phillip were both elected to serve on the Board of Directors. We will now move to the Credit Committee. Retiring from the Credit Committee is Mrs. Jennifer Clark, after serving 6 years, and Mrs. Jennifer Clark will be replaced by Mrs. Denise Edwards. Also retiring from the Credit Committee is Mrs. Doretta Freites, and she will be replaced by Miss Joan Franks as the proposed nominee. Retiring also from the Credit Committee is Mr. Sherman Casey, and the proposed nominee for replacement is Mr. Anthony Wiltshire. Mr. Chairman, at this time, may we invite a motion that Mrs. Denise Edwards, Ms. Joan Franks, and Mr. Anthony Wiltshire be nominated to serve on the Credit Committee?
Yeah. Can we have a motion that Ms. Denise Edwards, Ms. Joan Franks, and Mr. Anthony Wiltshire be nominated, be accepted as nominees to the Credit Committee? Can I have a motion? Hand is up, Mr. Christmas? Leonardo Christmas?
Virtually, that is seconded by Claudine Saunders.
Mr. Chairman, at this point, could it be indicated if there were any other nominations from the general membership of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union for members to serve on the credit committee?
There were no additional nominees to serve on the credit committee within the prescribed time.
Thank you. In light of that, Mr. Chairman, can we declare that Mrs. Denise Edwards, Ms. Joan Franks, and Mr. Anthony Wiltshire were elected to serve on the credit committee?
If there are no dissents, are there any dissents? If there are no dissents, then it is carried that Ms. Denise Edwards, Joan Franks, and Anthony Wiltshire serve on the credit committee.
Thank you. And finally, we will move to the supervisory committee. Retiring from the supervisory committee is Mrs. Juliet Simmons Ward after serving 6 years. And the proposed nominee to replace Mrs. Juliet Simmons Ward is Mrs. Yvette Pamela Osborne. Mr. Chairman, may we invite a motion that Mrs. Yvette Pamela Osborne be nominated to the supervisory committee?
Can I have a motion for Ms. Yvette Pamela Osborne and Ms. Willa Liebert be nominated to the supervisory committee?
Mrs. Yvette Pamela Osborne is one person.
Oh, sorry. Ms. Yvette Pamela Osborne be nominated to the supervisory committee. Is there a motion? Can I have Mr. Leonardo Christmas? Can I have a second? May I have a second? Virtually otherwise?
Albert Edwards.
Albert Edwards?
Yeah. Albert Edwards.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can it be indicated if there were any other nominations from the general membership of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union in respect of a member to serve on the supervisory committee within the prescribed time?
There were no additional nominees to serve on the supervisory committee at this time.
And as such, Mr. Chairman, may you invite a motion that nominations cease in respect of the supervisory committee?
Can I have a motion that nominations cease for the supervisory committee?
But no. Jovin Lapsi. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
No, with regard to what Ms. Wan, with reference to the letter that you sent us, it said something totally different to what the statement you just made.
Which one?
The letter that you sent us regarding registration doesn't indicate that we should submit a name, or it doesn't even indicate the names of the persons that we will be placing on any committee. Nor did it give us any avenue to indicate who we prefer to be placed on any committee. So I don't know if there was something missing.
Hi, Mr. Lapsi. I'm not sure. Once you would have read your confirmation email, the confirmation email stated clearly what would be allowed and not allowed. Once you would have gone to that landing page, it would have given you the opportunity to see all nominees and to also put someone forward as well as a resume of someone that you would like to nominate. So the information was provided, but only provided to confirmed persons for the meeting. So I'm not sure if you read through the entire email to see that that portion was there, but it was there for you to peruse.
Thank you.
I did get a confirmation. The lady called me as well. But I'm going back through he said email, but I guess I missed something along the way. But
what happened is, Mr. Lapsi, is that that landing page, because there's time limits on when things can be proposed, it would have, certain aspects of it would have been cut off, in particular the means of motioning or nominating someone would have been cut off 3 days in advance of. So I'm not sure if you checked it too late so that you weren't able to see that portion. But everyone was confirmed 5 days before the AGM, so everyone would have had the opportunity to peruse that landing page to put a nominee forward.
Okay, thank you.
Election. Yeah.
We have, did we have a motion to close nominations for the supervisory committee? Second? We got, yes. And we had a second?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, cool.
You at the point where you're asking for dissent, or?
Oh yeah, I was asking for dissent. Okay, sorry. Forgive me. Okay, so if there are no dissent or no further objections, okay, so nomination has been closed. So the nomination is now carried that the new member for the supervisory committee is Yvette Pamela Osborne.
Now, Mr. Chairman, we will proceed to the aspect of re-election. Okay. And as such, we ask for a motion for the re-election of Mr. Alex Strawn as the president of the board of directors after serving 3 years on this board. Can we invite that motion?
No, I can't. No, unclear.
Oh, I was going to do them individually.
Sorry.
Okay.
Just to provide one clarification, Mr. Alex Strawn and Mr. Cleon Bratcher, having served on the board for 3 years, the maximum time allowed for one to serve on the board is 6 years in 2 terms of 3 years. Having completed 1 term, Mr. Cleon Bratcher and Mr. Alex Strawn, and being eligible for re-election, the nominating committee has put forward these 2 names, and so the motion is on the floor for the re-election of Mr. Alex Strawn and Mr. Cleon Bratcher to the board of directors.
So we have Claudine Saunders moving the motion, and it has been seconded by Mr. Albert Edwards virtually.
Okay. Are there any dissents to Mr. Alex Strawn and Mr. Cleon Bratcher from continuing to serve on the board? If there are no dissents, then the motion is carried.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, may we invite a motion for Willa Liebert to continue to serve on the supervisory committee after serving a period of 3 years on the said committee.
Similarly, Ms. Willa Liebert would have served her first 3-year term on the supervisory committee and is eligible for re-election for a 2nd term. Can I have a motion that Ms. Willa Liebert be re-elected to serve on the supervisory committee for a 2nd term? Motion?
We have Ms. Keisha Thomas on the virtual platform moving that motion. And we also have that motion being seconded by Mr. Albert Edwards.
Thank you. Are there any dissents? Any objection to Ms. Willa Liebert continuing on the supervisory committee? If there are no dissents, then the motion is carried that Ms. Willa Liebert has been re-elected for her 2nd term on the supervisory committee. Thank you.
At this point, Mr. Chairman, we will declare that the elections are officially closed and over, and the members that were selected by virtue of the motions are now duly elected to the various board, credit committee, and supervisory committee.
Special thank you to our counsel, our solicitors, Johnson & Johnson, for ably conducting the elections on our behalf. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Up next, we have, I would guess, and say the most anticipated section, the question and answer. The question and answer section. There were some questions that were submitted virtually via the landing page that was provided. Those questions were forwarded to the relevant persons and will be addressed at this moment. At some point, we will open up the floor for persons to ask questions, whether within the room and virtually. We ask that as we move forward in a very respectful way, that persons within the virtual environment, please remember to raise your hand and not unmute your mic. I will indicate by calling your name, and your mic will be unmuted by one of our hosts. So we ask that you follow those instructions, and we begin our question and answer section. In terms of maximum allowance of questions, we ask that each person keep their questions to 1 minute. If you could fit 3 questions within that 1 minute, you can, but you'll be timed. I'll try as best as possible to keep you to 1 minute. So please be as concise and precise as possible.
I'll answer some of the questions that we got prior to this meeting. There was a question about the increased expenditure, and so we'll provide some further information. When we look at note 23 in the audited financial statement, staff costs, we see that the total staff costs, 3,120,082, is broken down into 3 components: salaries and wages, Social Security contributions, and staff benefits. Salaries and wages increased by $41,426, 1.77%. Social Security increased by $9,281. Staff benefits increased by $326,776, or 170%. This is made up of the pension expense, $7,747, the travel allowance, which increased by $2,100, and staff benefits increased by $247,001. This includes the end of contract gratuity for some staff members, which are one-off payments. It also includes the staff Christmas party, which totaled $44,108, and the staff Christmas bonus. So those are the reasons for the increase in staff costs, which went up by $377,000. The loan loss provision. IFRS 9 in 2018, we were able to charge a portion of the provision to retained earnings. That's $2.3 million. And so you only saw in the expense portion of it was $612,587. However, for 2019, when we had to charge the whole of the loan loss provision to the income and expense account, it looks like, well, we had a big increase in loan loss provision, but it is actually because in 2018 we were able to charge most of it because it was the initial introduction of IFRS 9. The standard allowed us to charge most of it to retained earnings. So it's not that in 2018 loan loss provision was $612,587, and then in 2018 is $1,866,150. It is because 2.3 million of the loan loss provision for 2018 was charged directly to retained earnings. So somebody asked that question about increase in insurance. This was due solely to the introduction of the loan protection insurance in August 2019 for members with loans below up to $27,000, right? Yes. So that's a benefit to the membership. Your loans are insured, and if you should, God forbid, pass away, then your family members would not have to take care of that responsibility, and also if you become permanently disabled as well. Travel, and question was asked about committee expense, and this relates to all of the expenses for the board meetings and the different committees. That's what committee expense is all about. The honorarium for the board, you know. Board members, I mean, sometimes they have to rush from their work, come to a meeting. Of course, we have to give them a meal, and we stay, you know, in the boardroom sometimes. Well, we haven't been doing it now, 9, 10 o'clock in the night. So that's what SKCCU committee expense is all about. The credit committee, they meet every week. Sometimes they meet more than once a week, those sort of things. Finance costs, there was also a question about the increase in finance costs. And this is because in 2019, National Bank introduced a charge to us for the cash which we purchased from them. So that is responsible for the increase in the finance costs. I have some other questions about what, if any, allowances are being made for members who do not wish to or are not able to sign up for online banking? And this has been throughout. A lot of persons have been talking about this initiative that we have, online, asking people to enroll in online banking, trying to reduce paper, and so on. And I think everybody would recognize that going green is really something that we should do if we are to take seriously our responsibility for our planet and for, you know, being more efficient in the things that we do. But while we would like all of our members to be enrolled, we recognize that there would be those who would have challenges, who would not be able to do online banking. So we are prepared to continue to serve our members as we have been doing when they come into our branches. So that is the allowance that we make. We have the doors still open. You can come and get served. We have recently upgraded our online platform, and you're able to enroll online in our online banking platform. So you don't even have to come into our offices now for your convenience. So you don't have to visit our office to be enrolled in online banking. And we can, you know, get to show you how to do this. You can call and we can run through with you what you need to do. We have the ATM service available. We know sometimes the ATMs act up and we get a lot of licks for that. But we are working on them. It was mainly because of the change in the notes. And so the machines at first were not calibrated as they should be. We still get some hiccup sometime, but because of the COVID-19 and the maintenance persons have not been able to come for months. So we have been, our technicians, we have to give them kudos because they were not trained to upkeep these machines, but they have been doing their best, working on them with the help of the technicians overseas by telephone and so on to keep them running. But the machines are due to be changed next year, God willing. So we are out in the market looking to see how we can get some new machines and better and upgraded. Mr. Strawn mentioned it before. What we are looking for modern machines that can do more, just do much more than just an ATM, but other banking services as well. Somebody asked about, in light of the fact that the cooperatives network was down following the fire at RBC earlier this month, is any backup in place for smooth operation? But our network wasn't down because of the RBC fire. There's no connection between the RBC fire and our network at all. And yes, we do have a business continuity plan in place, and we put it in place whenever anything like that takes place. For smooth transition, we do our backups, and we have our business continuity plan in place. There was one time when, we had a little glitch and we weren't able to serve our members, but we were able to get it back up in a short period of time. Has consideration been given to having members choose to attend meetings virtually after the COVID-19 regulations have been relaxed? Well, it's something for us to think about. If the members still want to continue with virtual, we will consider that and let you know if that is practicable. They say that we have recently implemented a new aspect to the family indemnity plan, which covers cancer treatment, accident, etc. Why was there no consideration made for those members who have to care for family members who suffer from severe mental illness, who as a result would not be able to attain any form of employment? Are there any plans for the SKCCU to make upgrades to the level of coverage and to aid members in this regard? Remember that this is not our product. It is a product of CUNA, the Credit Union National Association, Caribbean Insurance Organization, and they offer these products, and we get involved for the benefit of our members. So we don't determine that, but we could take your concerns, whatever concerns you have, to them. There's a representative stationed in St. Kitts, Mr. Thompson, so we can discuss with him what our members are saying, and decisions could be made to offer based on these considerations. But I'm sure they wouldn't offer just because one person wants that. We'll have to think about other ways in which those persons could be taken care of. I spoke about the ATMs before, so I wouldn't go around that again. The ATM problem is really not just St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union. Other banking institutions have been experiencing that, and as I say, we're really doing our best because we don't like when members have to keep coming inside when they really want to go to the ATM. There's a question on customer service. It is a challenge, and what measures are we proposing to implement to remedy this? We have been doing some training, especially during the lockdown period. We have had some online training that we have had our member services and tellers go through. And we recognize that we would like to have our members have excellent customer service experience. That is our aim. And turnaround time, we are trying to reduce our turnaround time. But it's like when you try to do something to reduce turnaround time, then people don't like it because they want their passbooks updated. They want to, they don't like if they feel like they're being rushed out of the institution. So we still have to weigh the balance and see how we can best please you, our members. Remember that even though we are considered a non-profit organization, our members want us to produce dividends for them. So in order to be able to cut costs and to compete and to make revenue, there are things that we have to do to cut down on paper. Yes, we have done studies. Somebody asked if we did any study, just comparing the cost of the amount of paper that we have to produce and to give out a receipt to everybody and a book and the time it takes to update the book. We have looked at those. But as I say, we want to make sure that we balance it and that we don't drive away persons who are not maybe computer savvy. But we can help you if you want to go online and you don't understand how to do it. We had a 76-year-old woman recently who asked us to come and put on the online banking on her computer so that she could see at home what is happening in her account. So if that 76-year-old lady could ask for that, everybody should be able to ask for that. It can be on your phone. I want our members to raise that level of thinking that we believe that we can't do it. Okay, other institutions can do it, and we accept it. But SKCCU, we have to stop thinking like that. Let us teach you how to do it. We can have some sessions where we go through how these things work, and so that we are able to move in a modern and more efficient manner to serve our members. I think those were...
I think that's most of it, Mrs. Harris.
Yeah, Ms. Harris would have answered some questions, and I have before me a set of questions, but they are quite operational in nature. So what I would propose to do, given the fact that there, and one in particular about the splitting of the shares, we have alluded to that we will consider this and bring it forward for a vote by the general membership. But I have a set of questions here, including the difference between the golden achievers, etc. What we will propose to do is that we will create on our website, and we will share with you via some educational tools. We'll create an FAQ so that you could answer these questions online, so that you could always have this. So all of these questions that you have posted here, we'll actually compile an FAQ and provide answers to you online, and so others could benefit from them simultaneously. Additionally, as indicated, we will also be moving forward with that suggestion, with some of the suggestions put forward here.
Thank you, Mr.
So I just wanted to just highlight that, yes, we are acknowledging your questions, we are not ignoring them, but because they're operational, we would want to address it holistically, but not just at the AGM, make sure something is in place so others could continue to benefit from an educational perspective.
Okay, we thank you for that, Mr. President. The floor is now open. If anyone in the virtual environment would like to ask a question, we ask that you raise your hand and wait until you are acknowledged. Mr. I can't remember your name, sorry. Can you come to the mic, please, and state your question? As short and sweet as possible, please.
Yeah, just two questions. I was listening to hear about hacking. Many commercial banks around Basti is being hacked by fraudsters. And if we have not been troubled by fraudsters, well, I'm glad for that. Okay. But as you change the ATM, you got to be careful to bar fraudsters. Yeah. And secondly, you have a recovery here from British American Baco of $150-something thousand. Is that a one-time payment, or do we expect a second recovery from Baco? That's the question. Hacking and the recovery of the money from Baco. Is that a one-time or British American? British American, yes. Yeah, so answer it. Just two questions.
Mike, Mrs. Harris, just bring the mic a bit closer to you.
Oh.
Yes.
There is no guarantee that we will get any more. It seems as though once they recover or they sell some assets, they distribute accordingly. So we don't have like a schedule to say, well, you're going to get this amount at this time. It's just ad hoc. So we continue to monitor, and whenever they announce that they are giving out funds, then we are there to receive ours.
What's your original amount you have?
3-point-something million. 3.3 million.
I guess the next question will be how much we have.
Okay.
As it relates to the question as hacking, we are especially given the current environment, in terms of technology is basically the major disruptor right now, and how we will differentiate ourselves and our products. Security is a paramount concern for your credit union, and it is something that we will continue to look at, and we will continue to do in technology audits. We'll continue to do penetration testing to make sure that our systems can't easily be compromised. And we'll continue to not just deal in terms of encryption, but we'll continue to make sure that only specific information can be available and from external to the institution, etc. So we'll continue to pursue best practices as it relates to technology to safeguard the resources that you have entrusted to us.
Okay. We have a question from the virtual environment. We recognize Ms. Warner Paul.
Yes, good evening. The question is related to delinquency, because every time we come to the meeting, we talk about the delinquency of loans. Is it the method that we're using to ensure collections need to be revisited, or are salary deductions that are not pursued vigorously? What is the situation and why we still have these delinquencies, something that is being addressed? That's my question.
We thank you for your question. Before we answer that question, I just like to recognize the second person whose hand is up in the chat. We recognize Miss Allison O'Dane. Okay. Good evening, Miss Allison O'Dane.
I want to hear you answer the delinquency one. I'm curious to that.
Hey, I can hear you. I could barely hear you. Could you just speak a bit louder? If not, Mrs. O'Dane, we'll ask that you just type your question in the chat.
Sorry about.
Oh, okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Thank you.
With the updated online banking, I just have a question concerning the service that's being offered. Are we going to be able to pay our bills online through the digital banking platform? So can I pay my cable bill, my electricity bill, and other bills?
Thank you for that question. Mr. Chair and Ms. CEO.
I will invite the CEO to respond to those questions.
Thank you. In terms of delinquency, you would recognize, I hope, that there has been much improvement. We went from 17% in 2017, 10% in 2018, and 6% in 2019. So we have been working on delinquency. Yes, we have the salary deduction orders in place, and those mostly work, but there are times when people lose their jobs or they change jobs. And some persons, when they change jobs, we found that was an issue. They would not put back a salary deduction order in place. It's a strange mindset, I guess, thinking that if you could get away with a few months, but then what people don't recognize, if now you go over 120 days, we send the loan for collection, you not only have to pay the amount that you owed, but 10% or something like that to the lawyers for collection as well. So that is why we are encouraging our members not to go down that route, to pay and come in. If you are not able to pay, come in so we can help you to restructure it and refinance the loan so we make it easier for you to pay. Yes, we continue to monitor the loans. We have our delinquency and collection persons who call around. People are very smart in terms of avoiding them. They would not answer when they see an SKCCU number come up on their phone and all of that. So it's the running around. When you are processing the loan, it's a different atmosphere to when the loan goes delinquent. So when you're processing, everybody is nice and they have all of these things to say. Even people would even bring letters to say that they have jobs which they do not have eventually, you will find out. So it's it's something that we have to keep working at. I think as we get to know our members better and we improve our ability to do due diligence, that we'll be able to write better loans, and we have been training our loan officers. It needs some loan officers to become like specialists in certain areas so that they will know that area inside out and they would understand what are the pitfalls. But we are working on it, and we shouldn't be in despair. We have been recovering. Some of the loans that have gone bad, you will see in the recoveries, we have been recovering because we do not give up on those loans. We still continue to pursue them. And I want you to encourage the other members to not to bring down their own credit union by doing that. There's a misconception also with the moratorium that people who are still working and who have their regular jobs still want to get the moratorium. So we're saying, why would you want a moratorium? You should just continue paying your loan. So we have been advising them not to do that, not to ask for the moratorium. Continue paying your loan, and even if you're getting reduced salary, to pay something to the interest, even though you have the moratorium on the principal. The online banking, we are really excited about the new platform. Now you can pay, you can do a sort of, I think National Bank call it peer-to-peer. We have our own little peer-to-peer where you can pay to another member online, make to somebody else's account, and eventually we will get into paying bills. Well, we just have to make the arrangements. Now we are looking at that, how we can make these arrangements with the government services, the cable, and so on, so our members can pay their bills online. I'm sure many of you would be happy with that. We wouldn't be charging the $24 that some banks charge. Okay?
Thank you for that, Mrs. Harris.
Yes.
If there's no further questions, I see no hands up. If there are no further questions from the audience as well, we will now end this question and answer segment. We thank you for those questions, and we look forward to that pretty much frequently asked question section that we'll be introducing in the near future.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. I know one of the questions concerns some elements of the CUNA services. I think it was
yes.
the FIP. So I think at this point in time we could have we will have a quick just message from CUNA, just letting you know some of the services that they offer.
Okay.
No. Yes.
On behalf of CUNA Caribbean Insurance OECS Limited, I would like to express my deep appreciation for being able to join you at this year's 37th Annual General Meeting. It is with a sense of pride that I say to everyone, welcome to the CUNA Conference Center for this, the first virtual AGM. A warm welcome especially to all our members joining us virtually, to the board members of the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union, to all the hard-working staff, and to Mrs. Janet Harris, our beloved CEO. Since our last AGM, I think it's fair to say that the coronavirus has been the topic of most conversations anywhere on the planet. So I want to share some thoughts with you over the next few minutes under the caption, CUNA and Corona. There is this Jamaican brother who, when he first heard about the coronavirus, figured that it was over 8,000 miles away from Jamaica and about 14,000 miles away from St. Kitts. So it's no threat to him or to his family or his home. Right? Wrong. As it turned out, his coronavirus struck at his home and he lost his mom, and his sister was also attacked by the virus. Over the last 2 months, his whole world, as Buju Banton would say, was turned upside down. He is faced with the pain and cost of treating his sister and mother, finally burying his mom, who was the 10th person killed by the coronavirus in Jamaica. Medical and funeral expenses have exceeded 15,000 US, which is approximately 40,000 EC. I know these facts to be true, since the Jamaican brother is the one speaking to you. COVID-19 has attacked over 15 million persons, with nearly 650,000 deaths. And we in the Federation expect some more cases once the borders are reopened. If any of our families or ourselves are attacked by this virus, I have a question for you. Where would the money come from to meet these expenses of medical care and, God forbid, having to deal with funeral expenses of buying or burying your mom or any other loved one? Kuna Insurance, through its family indemnity plan offered at the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union, is committed to assisting you at that moment of deepest loss and bereavement. We appreciate the opportunity of helping you in these trying times. We want to say thanks to those who have already availed themselves of the protection the Family Indemnity Plan offers. We encourage you to visit the credit union and familiarize yourself with the products and services offered through the credit union by Kuna during these trying times. Or visit the Kuna office at the corner of Wilkins Street and St. Johnson Avenue. Or contact me at 869-466-6453 or 869-762-2873. We look forward to partnering with you and the credit union in the future. Thanks for your time.
When I saw that video, I called my parents and I said, this is my number, we're going to get a FIP, because it's interesting times to be living in and you just never know what the future holds, yes? Right. Yeah. So we thank Kuna for that presentation. There's something I want to introduce to you guys, something that we as a credit union has been promising, we've talked about it, and I'm very proud to be a part of the membership, a part of the board in this time to introduce what I'm about to introduce. It's finally here, it's coming, and the video will explain it all.
I'm very pleased that we have come to the stage where we can announce to our members that we have signed the agreement with 4Cs for the debit card. This is something that has been long in coming. We want to help our members improve their quality of life. We want to have those financial partnerships with them where they can feel secured and be able to conduct their transactions with professionalism, having that innovation and digitization that is a given in this day and age. And so we are really pleased that the demand of our members, we are now able to fulfill that demand and to help them to have a debit card, not an ATM card, and to be the first of the credit unions to do such. So we are really pleased to make this announcement that by December, our debit card will be here.
All right. So that's some really good news. And December, That's a good time to have a debit card, yes? All right, as usual, we would promise, or as usual, our practice and tradition is at AGEMS to have a scholarship that we provide to a primary school and a high school student. So we're going to do that still. The opportunity was provided to those that were confirmed. If you would have read the email, you would have saw that there was a section to submit a name for this scholarship. So we got some names. What we did is we added all of the names to a wheel of names. So it's a random pick. And we're now going to show those 2 videos with the random picks and the 2 names that would have won the scholarship. So I'd like to say congratulations to Roselle Humphrey and Zakia Maynard. So congratulations, and whomever nominated you could reach out to us, and we will definitely reach out to those persons as well. We're soon to a close. I appreciate your patience. I thank you for being here. We are almost to the end, but we cannot leave without saying thank you to and acknowledging our volunteers that will be leaving us for a little bit. So I invite Mrs. Harris to come forward to just say some kind words.
Good evening to everyone. It's truly a privilege. It's not a difficult task to say thank you to the volunteers, because from the depth of my heart, I really appreciate what you do. Before I came to the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union, I really didn't know that there were persons who would work like that for no monetary reward. I know the reward is, internal and in terms of the satisfaction you get, and I want to thank you so much for all that you have done. From the Board of Directors, we have Sherilia Massacott, Oren Manners, Bibiana Henry, and Pierre Boring, who are retiring for now, as Cleon said, because they will probably come back. So let us give them a round of applause. From the Credit Committee, we have Jennifer Clark, Doretta Freites, and Sherman Casey. We want to give them a round of applause. And from the Supervisory Committee, we have Juliet Simmons Ward. I want to say thank you to the 8 of you. You deserve all the recognition in the world for volunteering to become a part of the leadership of the SKCCU, in particular during these challenging times over the past 6 years. We are well aware that our members rely heavily on this institution for financial security, and your decision to volunteer for such an important role in this organization is to be applauded. These are not responsibilities which can be taken lightly. In the financial world, with the growing complexity each day, you need an advanced understanding of the issues, such as those that affect financial institutions in general and credit unions in particular. And from the daily operations to board governance to credit issues to oversight issues, your ability to understand and analyze issues was critical. You have done exceptionally well based on the growth and development that we all can see in the institution over the years. And we wish to say a big, hearty thank you from the board, from the members, from the management, and from the staff. We applaud your hard work and dedication and wish you success in your future endeavors. We trust that if the opportunity arises sometime in the future, we will be willing once again to return to serve. We wish you God's blessing and favor in all that you do. Thank you very much. And we will have the recognition and the gifts at a later date. So, yes, we will keep in touch because we are going to do that recognition and the gift as well. Thank you very much.
And I too, just like as chair of the board, outgoing board that is, that to just express profound gratitude for the support that not just the retiring directors have given, but also the support from the other retiring volunteers from the other committees. And I'm going to give you a commitment that one of the things we want to do at the St. Kitts Cooperative Credit Union is our wall of fame. We need to be able to recognize the services that these people have given us, and one of the things, and so that you too, as our members outside, can recognize the persons who have served and what they have done to make sure that you get the support that you need, that we have seen you through these times. And so we are going to be able to create a wall of fame online so that you will be able to see these retiring directors and also staff and management who go beyond the call of duty to be able to serve you. So just to advise you and just to say exceptionally thank you, colleagues and volunteers, for your continued and yeoman service, continued support and yeoman service over the years. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I remember when first coming onto the board of directors, I felt very welcomed. And, you know, a lot of the persons that I would have met when coming on, you guys are leaving. So I'll miss you dearly. And I appreciate the contribution that you would have put into the SKCCU. Vote of thanks. We're almost at the end. Listen, this year was challenging. You know, COVID came along. We had everything already in play for AGM to happen early. It was like, this is going to be the earliest AGM. This is going to happen. Here we are now, yes? Nonetheless, it was, I think everything in life happens for a reason, and the challenges that we would have faced would have brought us closer as a credit union family internally. And for me personally, it allowed me to work very intimately with persons within credit union, and the opportunity I would have never probably gotten if COVID had not come around. So I would like to say thank you to the AGM committee. You guys are awesome. We put a lot of work into it, and I'm happy that we are here at this point. And I think for the most part, everything went pretty good. So congratulations, guys. I want to thank all those persons who participated in the program. You realize that everything was pre-recorded in a sense. And, you know, Pastor Lyndon Elliott, he was very willing when I asked him to do prayer. He came out, he did a lovely prayer. He's very educated within the credit union movement, so I thought that he was a really good choice. Shaloida, thank you for always being willing. Thank you for the credit union prayer as well. To Mr. Strawn, thank you for your presentations, the welcome remarks. To our register, we thank you for coming. We thank you for your support. And thank you for accepting this method so that we could be able to bring AGM. Yes, but thank you. Also to all the committee chairs that willingly came out, we put our reports together and you guys came and we were able to record them and get them off. Thank you, because I know that we wanted to keep AGM within a certain time frame today. We thank Mr. Keatley. Philip, Ivor, thank you for your presentation of financials this afternoon. Mrs. Woods, thank you for your nominating committee report and the hard work that you do within the nominating committee, bringing everyone together and getting the names forward. Mrs. CEO, thank you for always being there and for being my support as well. I hope I didn't miss anyone. To the caterers, to Triple CU, to the IT team, to Miss John, Thank you. Pro Video Productions, you guys are awesome. Appreciate you guys coming out and helping this thing look very professional. We appreciate you as well. To anyone that had anything to do with this AGM this year, the members, thank you for your willingness. Thank you for staying on with us. We still have over 100 persons on the Zoom meeting. Thank you for staying with us this afternoon. We appreciate you as well. God bless you and have a good evening.
Well,
and the president now comes.
It will be remiss of me. A lot of what happened here today was because of the stellar leadership of Mr. Cleon Bradshaw. So I want you to just join me in standing up and giving Mr. Bradshaw. Listen, at this credit union, we recognize and we encourage young and new talent, and he took this initiative and he took this challenge up, and he has worked and he has toiled and he has personally even recorded these videos. And so I just want us to just give Mr. Clear, recognize him and give him tremendous support as he is. Thank you, Cleon. A special thank you to our council. But this is what your credit union, I just want you to recognize the support and the willingness of our volunteers as we move forward to serve you. Thank you.
So we have one last thing to do, and that's a motion to adjourn. So,
in my capacity as outgoing chair, can I have a motion from the floor for the adjournment? I recognize the hands of Ms. Sherilia Massicott, seconded by Mr. Ivor Blake. All in favor? Say aye. Those against?
None against.
The ayes have it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much.
Credit unions are cooperatives, which means they are owned by their members. Cooperatives, whether they be financial institutions, electrical cooperatives, or food co-ops, all share the same 7 principles. Principle number 1, voluntary and open membership. You can belong to a credit union no matter your financial situation, race, or gender without discrimination. Principle number 2, democratic member control. This means we are controlled by our members. The members elect a volunteer board of directors that calls the shots. So we're not in this to get rich, but help you reach financial freedom. Principle number 3, member economic participation. Your success is our success. The more people who participate, the more the credit union can give back in the form of lower loan rates, higher savings yields, fewer fees, and more products. Just like karma, what goes around comes right back around. Principle number 4, autonomy and independence. We are owned by our members, not outside shareholders. That makes each member the boss. Principle number 5, education, training, and information. We are actively involved in helping members get ahead and financial education. Got a few minutes? We'll teach you the merits of budgeting,